I took the fall for my younger brother, Leo, and spent 3 years in prison. There, unexpectedly, I saved the son of the wealthiest man in our city, the tycoon Howard. As a gesture of gratitude, he rewarded me with $100 million. Upon my release, I reached out to my father at the earliest opportunity, eager to share the good news. But the moment he heard my voice, my mother hung up the phone without a word. Fearing something had happened to my family, I rushed home in haste. Just as I arrived at the door, I overheard Vivian, Leo's wife, complaining. She couldn't have picked a better day to get out of prison. I didn't even get to my prenatal checkup, and now I'm rushing to handle the property transfer, my mother replied. That's for your own good. After all, she paid for the house with a criminal record. She won't find employment easily. What if she refuses to leave and becomes a burden on us? Vivian snorted coldly. If she comes, we'll make her rent a place. I certainly don't want to live with an ex-con. I listened to their conversation. My hand trembled as I was about to knock on the door. My heart, full of concern for my family, plunged to the depths. It was the height of summer, yet I felt as if I were standing in the Ice Age. The door in front of me was the very one I had longed for every day for 3 years in prison, but standing before it now, I felt like I was on the edge of a precipice, unable to move. My parents favored Leo, but Leo had always been close to me. I went to jail to take the blame for him. Surely she wouldn't want to drive me out of the house with these thoughts in mind. Still, I knocked. My mother opened the door and feigned surprise. Ethan, you're back so soon? Your father just mentioned he was going to pick you up. She looked me over, forcing a pained expression. You've suffered and lost so much weight over these years. How I wished I hadn't heard her conversation at the door and that her concern was genuine. I responded with a tinge of bitterness. It's okay. Taxis are convenient these days. I walked into the house as I spoke. Vivian immediately came over and sprayed me with alcohol, as if trying to pour the entire bottle on me. Don't think too much of it. I'm just using alcohol to cleanse you of any bad luck, she said, trying to make me not think too much of it, but her face was full of undisguised disdain. She despised me for being an ex-convict, but she seemed to have forgotten that I went to jail for her and Leo without saying a word. I walked straight to my room. Don't bother looking. There's no room for you in this house, I heard my father say as I took a few steps. He was sitting on the sofa, smoking, the ashtray filled with fresh cigarette butts. My arrival seemed to make him very upset. I stopped and looked at him coldly. I've only been in prison for 3 years. I didn't die. Do I not even deserve a room in this house without a cigarette? I said with conviction. There are so many of us in the family, but only a few rooms. There's no spare room for you, he said. I didn't argue with him but asked, where's Leo? Does he feel the same way? At this time, Leo came out of the bathroom and looked at me with some difficulty. Ethan, Vivian is 2 months pregnant. If you live at home, the rooms really aren't enough. But it's okay. You're my brother. Everything will come first for you if you really want to live here. I'll make room in the baby's room. That was already prepared, Leo said quite straightforwardly. I nodded and said directly, she's not due for another 8 months. I'll just stay here for a while. Leo's expression froze. He moved his lips as if wanting to say something, but stopped himself. Vivian couldn't hold back any longer. Storming over, she shouted at me, how can you be so selfish? Can't you see the house is cramped and you actually have the audacity to take our baby's room? You've got some nerve. I couldn't help but laugh at her anger, looked at her and replied, we all used to fit. I've just been to jail and your child isn't even born yet. Why isn't there enough room now? And have you forgotten that I paid for this house in full? My father slammed the table abruptly and said in a stern voice, even watching your attitude, do you think it's great that you bought a house with a full payment? You want to take the house from us when you have just gotten out of prison? I responded with disappointment. Am I asking you to give me the house? You won't even offer me a room to stay in. He said, there's no room for you at home. If you want to find a place to live, rent a house by yourself. We don't owe you anything. My father glared at me, making it clear that I was no longer welcome. A fine thing to say, that you don't owe me anything, I said. You all pleaded with tears in your eyes for me to take the fall for Leo. You said that if I did, I would be the family's benefactor, and you would repay me. All I want now is to live in the room that was originally mine. Is that too much to ask? Is this how you intend to repay me? I spoke each word with a whirlwind of emotions churning in my chest. It was Leo and Vivian who had been driving my car, speeding and driving the wrong way, when they hit someone. My parents immediately came to me, saying they had worked so hard to get Leo into a prestigious university with a bright future ahead of him, and that this accident must not ruin his life. I, on the other hand, was just an ordinary employee at a small company with a future that paled in comparison to my brother's. So, they begged me, tearfully, to take the blame for Leo, saying the family would be grateful and repay me once I was released from prison. I didn't do it for any reward. I did it out of love for my parents and for Leo. I sacrificed my own future to take his place in prison. I sold my car, depleted my savings, and lost my job. I paid compensation, took the blame, and endured all the insults on his behalf. 3 years in prison were a torment, but I bore it all. But I never expected this. Instead of a deeper sense of family, what awaited me was utter betrayal. The blow of realizing my beloved family had turned into ungrateful people who would discard me once my usefulness was over. "Ethan, I know you're upset," my mother said, "but we've also had a hard time these past 3 years. Having a criminal in the family made us the subject of ridicule wherever we went. If you really live at home, we will be even more of a laughingstock. Can't you think about us for once, Leo?" Her voice was heavy with sacrifice, a sacrifice she claimed she had made for Leo. But in his eyes, I could see the truth he didn't say. I was now a burden, the one who had brought shame upon them. Any last hope in my heart was completely extinguished. There was no warmth left in this home. All my sacrifices had become the biggest joke. Looking at Leo with a cold, condescending tone, I said, "Leo, don't forget it was you who should have been in prison. You're the one who brought shame to the family. If you really cared about the family's reputation, you should have taken responsibility back then. Instead of enjoying my sacrifices, occupying my house, and shamelessly blaming me for not thinking about you." Upon hearing this, Leo flushed with anger and embarrassment. He retorted irritably, "You did take the fall for me, but I've already thanked you. What more do you want from me? You were my older brother. Wasn't that your duty? Do you really need to keep reminding me of such a trivial matter?" He spoke as if my 3-year sentence was something as casual as when I used to give him the largest drumstick at dinner. His simple thank you was supposed to settle the score. My father, as always, defended Leo and scolded me. "You want recognition for doing a little favor for him? How can you be so petty? Yes, you're a good-for-nothing criminal living off the family, if you rely on us. What will happen when my child is born?" Vivian, stroking her belly, spoke mercilessly, "My child comes first." My mother also looked grave and said to me earnestly, "Even your father and I are still looking forward to having a grandchild. You're not young anymore. Even if you go out and rent a place by yourself, that's only proper." Their voices echoed each other, and each sentence pierced my heart like a sharp knife. I was utterly disappointed with their coldness, and my tears fell uncontrollably. Looking at them, I croaked, "No wonder you never visited me once during those 3 years I was in prison. I convinced myself you were just too busy to see me. But the truth is, you found me disgraceful." I tilted my head back, holding back tears, then asked coldly and distinctly, "I'll ask you one question. Are you determined to drive me away today?" "Yes," my father replied without hesitation. My mother, Leo, and Vivian all wore resolute expressions. There was clearly no room for negotiation. I couldn't see a trace of affection in their eyes. I nodded and declared resolutely, "Fine. From today onwards, I sever all ties with you. I hope you won't regret it. This family is not worth my attachment. The $100 million I plan to share with you also has nothing to do with you anymore." With that, I left the house without looking back. Behind me came Vivian's resentful roar. "Stop pretending. What's there to regret about breaking ties with a criminal?" After leaving that emotionless home, I wandered the streets alone for a long time. Eventually, I found a hotel to stay in temporarily. I consulted a lawyer online, paying a high price. The house I had found was under my parents' names. I wanted to know if I could get the house back. The lawyer said that as long as I could prove I was the actual buyer, for example, by presenting payment records, renovation bills, or property management documents, I could reclaim the house. I had the habit of keeping materials, so I had kept all those documents carefully, with the goal of reclaiming the house. I hired the lawyer to handle this matter for me. Afterward, I lay on the bed, gazing at the 9-digit balance on my phone, lost in thought. My parents had always favored Leo, thinking he was smarter than me and destined for a promising future. I hadn't even finished junior high when they forced me to drop out to earn tuition money for Leo. So I got out on my own, working manual labor jobs as a waiter, a worker, and a courier. All kinds of hard and tiring work. The house they lived in was the one I bought after saving for nearly 10 years. When I bought it, my parents were afraid I would neglect them in the future and persuaded me to buy it under their names. Thinking we were all family, I agreed without hesitation. But upon my release from prison, they immediately transferred the house into Leo's name, not even willing to leave me a room. I couldn't forgive my parents and was even more disappointed in Leo. I had sacrificed everything for him, even going to jail to take the blame for him. But what about him? Not only did he not thank me, but he also joined my parents in driving me out of the house. Fortunately, God didn't drive me into a corner. I got more money than I could spend. The next day, I went straight to the sales office of the village area. There just happened to be a promotion: the more you buy, the bigger the discount. I directly bought 10 fully renovated villas in one go and quickly settled the furniture and appliances. I immediately moved into one of the villas and hired a servant to cook and clean for me every day. As for the other 9 villas, I rented them all out. I had always dreamed of being a landlord. Unexpectedly, after I was released, my dream actually came true. I could cover all my expenses just on the rent from those 9 villas every month. Life was wonderful. A month later, I received a call from my father. "Are you crazy? You actually sued us." I said lightly, "I'm suing the people who have occupied my house." "Well, Ethan, you really have a lot of tricks and a ruthless heart, worthy of being an ex-convict. You have to make the scandal public, right?" Even through the phone, I could see his livid face. "Thanks to you for teaching me so well," I said sarcastically. "Cheers to that." My mother also shouted, "Ethan, so what if you get the house back? Don't forget Leo is now working in a big company with a monthly income of tens of thousands, and you're just a criminal who can't even find a job with no income. Even surviving is a struggle for you. You'll have to ask Leo for help. Are you sure you want to fall out with us over a house? I want this house back, not because I need it, but simply because I don't want you ungrateful people living in it." I ignored their curses and hung up the phone immediately. Just as I put my phone away, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find a very beautiful, sexy girl standing there. "Hello, I'm Eleanor, a tenant of Villa number 2. I remembered her clearly. She was the first tenant to rent one of my villas. Our transaction had gone smoothly. She liked the villa and signed the contract on the spot. I looked at her and asked in confusion, "Well, what's the matter?" She lifted her hair shyly and said, "I'm hosting a class reunion at my place. They heard that a wealthy individual bought 10 villas here, and that one of the girls is connected to you. They all want to meet you. I came to ask if you could honor me by attending the party." Eleanor's eyes were shy, and her cheeks were flushed charmingly. I didn't know her well, so my first instinct was to decline. But looking into her pleading eyes, I found I couldn't refuse. Seeing my hesitation, Eleanor clasped her hands together and begged, "Please say yes. I've bragged to my friends that I'm very close to you, and I promised I could bring you over to impress them. Just help me out so I won't be embarrassed. I have a weakness. I'm a pushover when people are nice to me. When someone asks for a favor, I can't say no." "All right, I'll be right over." Eleanor immediately brightened. "Great, I'll wait for you at the villa." After she left, I changed out of my pajamas into a suit and headed to her villa. What I didn't expect was to find Vivian opening the door and Leo standing beside her. "Ethan, you're stalking us here?" Vivian frowned and barked as soon as she saw me. "Do you two know each other?" Eleanor asked, confused by the tension. "Eleanor, this is Leo's criminal brother," Vivian said with a sneer. "She's old enough, but still wants to take over the room. She's shamelessly living off her parents while preparing for her baby." Hearing this, the others gathered around, scrutinizing me with complicated expressions. Vivian grew louder, speaking down to me. "Get out of here. This villa belongs to us." Her voice was loud and arrogant, like she owned the place and I was an intruder. The crowd joined in, jeering with disdain. "She's living off her parents. She's even stalking you here. This criminal will do anything for money. She's got the ability to work but just chooses to rely on others. This villa was bought by a mysterious wealthy man. Don't cause trouble here." "Right. That wealthy landlord is coming soon. Offend him, and you might disappear." Led by Vivian, the crowd mercilessly unleashed malice on me, even though they barely knew me. But I didn't care. Wealth gave me confidence. A few harsh words couldn't hurt me. I looked at Vivian and said with a smile, "First, I'm not stalking you. I'm annoyed just seeing you. Second, let me remind you, I became a criminal because I took the fall for your husband. If you despise me for being a criminal, then tell me, if you're living in my house and refuse to leave, who's the real shameless one here?" My words silenced the crowd. Their gazes shifted from me to Vivian with new curiosity. Vivian's voice weakened as she replied, "Don't talk nonsense. That house belongs to Leo. What does it have to do with you?" I sneered. "Anyway, the lawyer's letter has been sent to the house. I hope you can still be so defiant in court." Leo, silent until now, grew anxious. "We're family. Do you have to make things so embarrassing?" She kept saying we were family, but her actions said otherwise. I looked at her coldly and said slowly, "Why didn't you say we're family when you drove me out of my own house? Why didn't you say we're family when I was publicly insulted and humiliated by your wife? Now that you feel threatened, you try to guilt trip me. We're family only when I'm useful to you. Otherwise, I'm the criminal." Every word deepened my disappointment. I couldn't understand how my brother, once close to me, could become like this. "Don't flatter yourself. You're a lowly ex-convict with no money or job. What benefit can we get from you? We just want you to stop pestering us." Vivian raised her chin again, belittling me. "Is there some misunderstanding, Eleanor?" Eleanor, confused all along, finally spoke up. Despite knowing little about me, she knew I was the wealthy landlord who bought 10 villas. "There's no misunderstanding, Eleanor. Don't be fooled by his honest look. He's just a disgusting leech. You better call the police and have him removed." Vivian looked at me, sinister and eager to see me lose face. "But she's the one I invited," Eleanor said seriously. "She's the wealthy landlord who bought 10 villas at once." Hearing this, both Leo and Vivian were shocked, their eyes wide in disbelief. "But that can't be. How could she be the same person?" Vivian said in disbelief. Eleanor nodded firmly. "It's him. He's my landlord. I wouldn't be mistaken." Everyone's expressions changed, looking at me with surprise. "Impossible, Ethan. You must have tricked Eleanor somehow. Or you're pretending to be that wealthy man," Vivian said, certain and scornful. She couldn't associate the ex-convict she despised most with the wealthy landlord beyond her reach. I looked at her mockingly and said lightly, "Believe whatever you want." Then I turned to Eleanor. "Sorry to disrupt your party. Have a good time. I'll head back now." With that, I turned and left. At that moment, Leo chased after me and stopped in front. "Ethan, what's going on?" she asked with a complex expression. Realizing the change in my status, Leo immediately changed her attitude. She withdrew her hostility, but her gaze still carried that of the little boy who used to be close to me. However, I already knew she wasn't following me out of affection. She was looking for a safe haven that could bring her benefits. I looked at her expressionlessly and said coldly, "Don't talk to me. A criminal is not worthy of being your brother." Back in my villa, I still couldn't find peace. My parents and Leo kept calling me, so I blocked all their contact information and refused to communicate with them. They disliked me so much that even the air around me seemed dirty to them. They wouldn't give me a glance or a smile. But once they learned I had money, they immediately started pestering me. I had already seen through them. It was better not to have such family members at all. That night, I slept soundly. Early the next morning, there was a knock on my villa door. Half asleep, I cracked it open. Suddenly, my parents, Leo, and Vivian forcefully pushed the door wide open and barged in, completely ignoring me. My mother's eyes widened as she looked around the villa. "Wow, this place is massive. Leo, your kids will have so much room to run around here. We could even put an amusement park in the living room if we wanted." Leo nodded in agreement. "Yeah, my child will be born into wealth now." Vivian walked around excitedly, exclaiming, "This is amazing. I'll be the lady of the manor, Leo. I want a whole room dedicated to my clothes and handbags and a private sauna room. When I'm bored, I'll just sing and do beauty treatments, take showers, whatever I want." My dad turned to me, commanding as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Even set up a coffee shop in the villa's courtyard. I'll bring some friends over for coffee and chats whenever I'm free." They were acting as if they already owned the place, making plans as if it was a given. I was instantly wide awake. The drowsiness vanished. Without hesitation, I said, "This is my home, not a place for your daydreams." The four of them looked displeased. My dad was the first to speak. Ethan, we all know you saved a rich man while you were in jail and got a thank you gift of $100 million. Just give us half of that money. Also, didn't you buy 10 villas? Give one to your mom and me, and one to your brother. He spoke as if making a huge concession just by asking. It was clear they had come prepared. I didn't mince words. My money and my villas have nothing to do with you sharing. My mother, furious, hands on her hips, shouted indignantly, "How can you be so ungrateful? Don't forget it was because of us that you went to jail in the first place. Without us, you wouldn't have had the chance to save that rich son and get that 100 million. We're not asking for all your money already. That's the biggest concession. As parents, do you want to keep all that money to yourself? How can you be so shameless?" Watching her scold me with self-righteous indignation, I was speechless. When I was in jail for 3 years, bullied, hungry, cold, and tortured, they never once came to see me. But now that I had money, they immediately came to claim credit and accuse me of being shameless. You came home from jail with $100 million and never mentioned it. We consider you family, but you're such a selfish person. That money is ours by right. Give us the money right now. Leo and Vivian joined in, accusing me with full conviction. I sneered. Consider me family? It was you who threw me out for being an ex-convict. I told you then not to regret it. After that, I didn't bother arguing anymore. I directly called security. "Hello, there are people trespassing on my property. Please get them out of my house as quickly as possible. Also, I don't want to see them in my villa area again." Soon, security arrived. Ignoring the unreasonable anger of the 4 intruders, they quickly drove them out. The security guard apologized to me repeatedly. They claimed to be your family, which is why I let them in, but I will never let them set foot here again. I didn't pursue it any further. After that day, I never saw them again. I thought my life had finally become peaceful. Unexpectedly, one quiet morning, I suddenly received a flood of nuisance calls and abusive messages. The incessant calls and texts overwhelmed my phone until it crashed. Confused, I removed the SIM card and went online to find that I had been cyberbullied. My parents had become internet sensations, their videos spreading across nearly all social media platforms. In the videos, they tearfully lamented how they raised me and how I repaid their kindness. We treated him as the apple of our eye, always saving the best for him, even if we had to skip a few meals. We bought him his favorite drumsticks. We raised him with great difficulty, but he immediately kicked us out. Once he became rich with 10 villas, he still kicked us out of a small house. Why is there such an ungrateful son in this world? As my parents sobbed in the video, Leo appeared to comfort them while tearfully appealing to the camera. My brother has been domineering and unreasonable since he was a child, always fighting and bullying others. I grew up under his fists. I thought he was just bad-tempered and would change when he grew up. But he turned out to be a complete moral degenerate without limits. He has forced us, a family of 5, to crowd into his small house and is now suing us, claiming we are occupying his house. I can't understand why someone would treat their own family like this. Isn't afraid of retribution. Leo was indignant, while Vivian played the victim, accusing me as well. She has never repaid his parents for all these years. It's always been my husband and me taking care of them. We never complained about him, but he came to bully us instead. We went to reason with him, but he had the security throw us out. I was pregnant, yet he showed no mercy. I almost had a miscarriage. The 7-minute video was filled with their grievances about the miserable treatment they had suffered. Every word was an accusation and denunciation against me. They deliberately exposed all my personal information, instantly turning me into a pariah. Everyone was out for my blood, my phone, personal accounts, and every possible contact flooded with insults. I knew they wanted to destroy me. Although I had completely fallen out with them, their unscrupulous and distorted accusations still hit me hard. We were family, but they seemed to have abandoned me. There was no way out since they showed no mercy. I wasn't going to go easy on them either. I dialed Howard's number. After all, I saved his son, and not only did he hand me $100 million, but he also gave me his phone number. She told me I could call on him for anything, I explained. Upon hearing it was me, Howard was all politeness. I've even seen the online buzz about you. Are you calling to get some help? Howard paused, intrigued. What's your plan? Could you hook me up with a TV station? I want to do a live interview to address this issue head-on. Of course. That very day, a TV station staffer reached out. The next day, the news hit the headlines. Ungrateful billionaire to face accusations live on television. The comments section was abuzz with opinions. Save your breath. Nothing you say will change the fact that you're an ingrate. No parents would mistreat their own kids. If you've pushed your family this far, you must be the real villain. You've got the guts to go on TV. Never seen someone willingly air their dirty laundry. I'm calling in sick today. Can't miss how he spins this. When's the live show? I can't wait. For a while, everyone was glued to the screen. The live broadcast hadn't even started, but the news had skyrocketed to the top of the trending list. Everyone was eagerly waiting for the show to kick off. Half an hour later, the TV station went live. I stepped onto the stage, right in front of the camera. A massive screen in front of me scrolled the live feed of comments at that moment. The comments section was a sea of negativity. I saw every kind of insult, some rough, some crude, all crystal clear. The hostess sat next to me and began. Even regarding your family's tearful accusations of ingratitude, what's your response? I looked straight into the camera and said earnestly, let me share my story. I'm even from a humble background. When I was 3, my younger brother Leo came along. As long as I can remember, the mantra for my parents was that the elder brother must look out for the younger. They drilled into me that my life would only be worthwhile if Leo made something of himself. So all the treats and toys were Leo's first pick. She loved drumsticks, so that's what we had at every meal when she'd leave the skin. And that's when I got the skin, which was greasy and honestly not my favorite. But if I didn't eat it, I starved, so I'd wrap it in a slice of bread and force it down. Growing up, Leo got new clothes and I got his hand-me-downs. I was the butt of jokes at school for my ill-fitting attire. Every time I went to school, my classmates would laugh at me for wearing tight clothes. Every day, I'd come home in tears, and my parents would just tell me to eat less so the clothes would fit. They said spending money on me was better spent on Leo's toys. They chided me for not thinking of Leo. After that, I didn't even have the skin to eat in junior high. Leo thrived on good nutrition, and I was the runt quickly outgrown by him. So I got his hand-me-downs that fit. I was relieved, but it didn't last. My parents told me to quit school and start working. They said Leo needed extra classes, and there wasn't enough to go around. I loved learning and pleaded to stay in school. I said my grades were not bad, and going to school wouldn't cost much money. I begged my parents to let me continue studying, but they said I wouldn't be able to earn money for Leo if I stayed in high school. They scolded me for being selfish, saying I didn't think about my brother at all and didn't care about him. I was berated and forced out into the world. My first gig was at a construction site, breaking walls. My father set it up for me. It was grueling, dusty, and paid well enough to buy Leo new clothes, but I was scrawny and couldn't even hold the hammer. Steadily, the foreman scolded me for several days, and I got fired after 2 weeks. That day, I came home with my hard-earned cash, only to be beaten by my dad for being useless. He said, as a man, you can't even do manual labor. Mom counted the money, gave Leo $500 to spend at school, and handed me $100 to buy him a birthday present. After that, I found jobs on my own, delivering, waiting tables, factory work, fixing cars. I have done all kinds of jobs. Every cent I made went to support Leo. All of Leo's high school and college tuition and living expenses came from my hard work. I treated myself to new clothes only on Christmas. Meanwhile, Leo had a fresh outfit every day. This is what my parents called raising me with hard work and dedication. I recounted my life with a calm demeanor. The live chat, once a torrent of abuse, had fallen silent, with only occasional voices of support. One commenter said, I was Ethan's classmate in grade school. That's true. He had it rough, always in ill-fitting clothes. I used to join in the teasing. Another admitted, Ethan, I'm sorry for my ignorance back then. I was in his middle school class. She was a top student, I continued. When the teachers found out he was dropping out, they pleaded with my parents to let me stay, but they wouldn't listen. We were in class when my parents dragged me out. I never came back. The live stream, with its millions of viewers, was utterly quiet through the screen. I could feel the weight of countless silent testimonies. The hostess, collecting herself, asked gently, what happened next? What led to these online accusations from your family? I offered a faint smile and recounted. Later, I screamed and saved every penny from my work for a decade and bought a house outright. When it was time to collect the keys, my parents accompanied me. Suddenly, they confessed, saying they had treated me well in the past and feared I might not take care of them in their old age. They even cried in front of me, full of remorse. I reassured them that they raised me and that I wouldn't abandon them. But they doubted, insisting that transferring the property into their names was the only way to secure their future. I thought we were family after all. Could my own parents betray me? So I agreed. Then, due to a car accident, I ended up in prison. I spent 3 long years behind bars. Every day and night I worried about my family, but they never came to visit. I feared they might struggle without my support or that something would happen to them. Life in prison was harsh and lonely. There were moments when I nearly gave up, but the thought of my family needing me kept me going. One day, I saw a fellow inmate choking on his food in a dire situation. I had learned the Heimlich maneuver online, so I acted quickly and saved his life. Later, I discovered he was the son of the wealthiest man in the country. To express his gratitude for saving his child, Howard gifted me $100 million on the day of my release. I called my father right away to share the great news. I had even planned how we'd all split the money. But as soon as he heard my voice, he hung up. I rushed home, thinking something terrible had happened, only to find out that my parents had already transferred the house to my brother's name. They were afraid I'd take advantage of them if I lived with them, so they tried every trick in the book to keep their distance. They said a man with a criminal record would never find work and would be a burden on them. I had given so much for them, but they turned their backs the moment I needed help. From the start, they never showed me a kind face. After waiting 3 years for a family reunion, all I got was their disdain and rejection. I was kicked out shortly after our brief conversation that day. Utterly disappointed, I severed ties with them. With the lawyer's help, I reclaimed my house. When they found out I had money and had bought 10 villas, they barged into my home demanding money and property. I refused and had security escort them out. The whole time, I didn't lay a finger on them, and the security staff was polite and careful. I have surveillance footage as proof. This is what my brother and his wife accused me of in the video, being unreasonable and bullying them. I responded to all the accusations from my parents, Leo and Vivian, each with solid evidence and a sincere attitude. By then, the tide of public opinion had completely turned. Netizens who had cursed me began to condemn my parents, Leo and Vivian. I continued earnestly. The biggest blemish on my life is the 3 years I spent in prison, the biggest mistake I've ever made. But my mistake wasn't causing the accident. It was lending my car to Leo and taking the fall for him when he crashed. What? This contains the footage from my car's dashcam. It clearly captured the entire accident. I handed the memory card to the hostess and played it for all to see. The dashcam recorded Leo and Vivian's conversation in the front seats, crystal clear. After driving for a while, they began to play around, laughing and joking. Unknowingly, the car turned left, veering into the oncoming lane. Oblivious, they continued their antics, even accelerating despite a pedestrian clearly in sight. The car plowed straight into them. It wasn't until the pedestrian was hit that their laughter ceased. The room erupted in outrage as the footage ended. I spoke again. After the accident, my parents begged me to take the blame for Leo. They said he had a bright future at a prestigious university, and this accident would ruin it. I was just a regular employee destined for an ordinary life. It wouldn't matter if I took the fall for him. They said if I didn't, Leo would be disgraced and couldn't go on living. So I became the prisoner for Leo, enduring humiliation and abuse, only to return to their scorn and be driven from my home. That's the family that accuses me of ingratitude. Tears streamed down my face. I had finally poured out the bitterness of so many years. After the broadcast, Leo was investigated and sentenced to 5 years in prison. Vivian, shocked by the news, miscarried that very day. My parents faced a backlash of online abuse. The supporters they once had turned against them, making them the targets of everyone's wrath. They became outcasts living in hiding, their lives full of misery. Evicted from my home, Vivian rented a remote, dilapidated house and vanished from my life. Having served my time and with extenuating circumstances, I received a mere reprimand and returned to normal life. Free from my family, I embraced my new life as a landlord. The high rents allowed me to travel wherever I pleased. Once, I thought happiness was about family unity and harmony. Now I see it's about exploring the wider world and discovering new possibilities. The rain will stop and the sky will clear. Nothing stays terrible forever. Those who chase the light will shine brightly. I'm on the path to the future realm.